Hey everybody, it's Missy again. Thanks for joining me today, and I'm finally back with a using older supplies video. I haven't made one of these in a while. I've been so busy with design team projects and just life in general. I'm finally back, and I'm starting with this picture. Do you know who this guy is? Yes, that's me and the Incredible Hulk, Lou Ferrigno. I got to meet him a few years ago. I loved the Incredible Hulk growing up, and I had to meet him. So I'll tell you about the picture a little bit later. But anyway, I was inspired by not only, of course, the picture, but the fact that we were both wearing the same color blue. And so I thought I wanted to make a layout from scratch using some of my random supplies, and the stencil was something I hadn't used in a while. This is a Heidi Swap stencil that I got at Michael's several years ago, and I'm going to use some white cardstock. And I kind of turned this into a let's see what we can do with just some white cardstock layout, because sometimes, you may not have a lot of supplies. And so I thought I would try to use as little embellishments and things as possible. So I'll talk you through that as I go. But what I'm doing here is I'm using some Shimmers textures, and this is a white pearly color called Tidy Whitey, and it's got some grit to it. It's almost like it has some sand mixed in with it. And you really have to scrape it on there because it's so textury. But I just wanted some interest on the background of this white cardstock, and these hearts do just that. And so it's really bumpy, and you're going to get some really good texture from this. And so I thought I'll start with that. I'm going to take it off, look at it, come back, add a little bit more. I didn't want to do the entire 12 by 12 background, but I kind of wanted to have the layout kind of start over in the upper right corner area and be coming down, I guess, diagonally toward the left. So these are something that I have not used in a while, and these are my Prima oil pastels. I got those in a hip kit, oh goodness, several months ago, and I didn't put any gesso or anything on my paper. I just wanted to play around. This was kind of just a let's see what happens type of layout, and I'm gonna try to pull some of the blue from the picture. So I'm just using some of the blue oil pastels, and I'm gonna mix it in with some shimmers, and this is some of the Jenny B blue. I just want some different shades of blue, and you can kind of see how the textures acts as a resist almost. All of the ink is going around the texture paste, and that does take a while to dry. So this was the next day when I came in with all of these oil pastels and liquid sprays here. Now I'm just using my finger. I'm just gonna draw right onto the paper and then smudge it with my finger. I dab my finger in just a tiny drip of water and then just smudge it. And I know I've said this before, but I haven't used these in a while, but if you do use gesso, they do smudge a lot easier and a lot better, but it's not necessary. They will still smudge. And I decided to come in with a little bit of green, since this layout is about the Incredible Hulk. He was all about being green, so I had to put some green in my page. So yeah, I'm just smudging it around. Bring the picture back in and see how it looks, and just keep working at it. And this part's fun for me. I like to do the mixed media backgrounds. I like to get messy and just make it look like it just kind of splattered onto the page, when in reality I took lots of time to make it look that way. It's funny how we make things, we want it to look accidental, but we spend so much time trying to make it perfect, and it really was no accident at all. But you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of making a mess and playing around with the packaging. And the sun was going in and out this day, so my lights are getting brighter and then getting dimmer. I don't know why it keeps doing that, but hopefully it's not driving you too crazy. So I have to do a little bit of the packaging technique. So I'm adding a little bit of that in. And I want to make sure that you can see this coming out from behind the picture, because at this point I have no collection picked out, nothing like that. It's just this white cardstock, the mixed media, and the picture. So now I'm going to come in with even more shimmers. These are some of the original Shimmers paints, and this one is a gorgeous blue color, and we also got this in a hip kit, I think back in August. Don't quote me on that, but it's a beautiful glittery liquid paint already made up, and it's called Anchors Away. Such a gorgeous, almost royal blue color, and all these colors really complement the blues in the picture. A little bit of green. I can't remember the exact name of this one, but it is so pretty. I can look it up, but it's definitely like a grass green color. And I know the Hulk wasn't really grass green, but it's still green. And you can kind of see my paper's getting kind of saturated, so I wanted to let that dry before I keep adding more stuff, because you know what happens to paper that's not protected. The more you wet it, the soggier it's going to get, and I did not want to rip a hole in it. So I let all of that dry. Okay, here's where I come in with more white cardstock. Now these are things that I had sitting on my desk from previous projects. I had that white scribbly circle cut out, and I had these wonky hearts cut out that I used the actual cutout on the other sheet where I cut them from. I used that on the layout, and so I had these cutouts, and I thought, let's just try to see what this would look like if I added more white on top of everything. But they were kind of boring, just white hearts, and so I went to my sewing machine and pulled out some royal blue thread and just did an outline straight stitch around all of those hearts. And instead of going through all of my papers and collections, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to use some random bits and bobs that I have around on my desk, and that includes washi tape. So I pulled out some greens and some blues, and I'm just going to start to kind of add some layers to the background. That's a solid green color, and this is a royal blue and white stripe. You can find all the colors of that striped washi tape at Michael's. I love that tape in all the different colors. So I'm going to kind of play around with the hearts, and I do cover up a lot of that background, but you can still see what I think is sufficient. I knew I was going to layer stuff on top of it, but I just wasn't quite sure as I went. And I also wound up covering up some of that washi tape, but that's okay because I'm going to add more. So to make those hearts pop up off the page, I'm going to add some adhesive foam. And then before I glue that down, I'm going to add some thread, and I've got the royal blue, and then I've got some of the green. And I actually really like how this is looking. I like that you can see the messy paint coming out from behind the hearts, and you can still see the textures hearts very, very subtle in the background, which is what I wanted. So I'm going to get all that glued down, and then I decide what is another creative way that I could use the washi tape, because I need some embellishments. So I decided to take all the colors that I used and a scrap piece of cardstock and stick a couple strips down. Couple different shades of green and the blue. And I didn't even go too crazy with all the washi. I just used the 3 different ones there. And then I'm going to take my confetti punch that I got at Michael's a long time ago, and I'm going to punch a bunch of tiny circles. I don't know where this idea came from. It has nothing to do with the Hulk. But then again, I honestly don't have any embellishments that have to do with the Hulk. So I'm just kind of making this about, I love that this happened type of thing. So I came up with this idea to glue all these little tiny circles one by one, kind of coming out from behind the photo, almost like a bunch of confetti circles, tight around the photo, and then they kind of disperse as they go out further. And this did take a while, I'm not gonna lie. I wind up having to get my little tweezers out because my fingers were getting sticky from the glue and they kept sticking. But it's the green and blue, kind of just coming out from behind the picture. And the more I look at this picture, the more I realize I look like a tiny shrimp up next to him. He really is that big in person. And this was a few years ago. My friend Jennifer and I went to a MegaCon convention, or I guess MegaCon, that's what it's called, in Orlando. And we got to meet some people from The Walking Dead and some people from Arrow. I love all those shows. And I happened to see Lou Ferrigno there, and so I immediately had to get in line and meet him, because every Friday night when I was a kid, I had to watch The Incredible Hulk, The Dukes of Hazzard, Wonder Woman with Linda Carter, Dallas, and Falcon Crest. I loved those shows, but I loved the Hulk ever since I was little. He never scared me. I never thought he was a bad guy, and I just loved it. And so when I met him, I told him, I said, you have no idea how many Friday nights I spent watching you growing up. And he was just really nice, and it was just cool to meet someone that, you know, I watched as a kid. So I was excited. So I decided to add some sequins there. I was talking, but I added some blue sequins. Those are from Spiegel Mom Scraps. And then I'm going to pull in these fabric DIY thickers that they're kind of like a fabric-y feel to them, and you can color them any way you want. And I play around with the placement. I knew I had to have the word incredible in my title. And my title is going to wind up being This is Incredible. And I'm going to kind of space the word out just to make it a little more interesting and not so long, since it is a long word. But of course, I'm going to jazz them up. I'm just going to use a gelato and lightly dab some of the color on there, and then use a little bit of water and my finger to smudge. So it's kind of like going from white to blue at the bottom, just to give it some blue shading so it's not so stark white. And I love how the little confetti circles turned out. It just is something different, you know? And I'm using the washi tape in a different way, and you know, just trying to make everything stretch and to show that you really don't need a whole lot of things to make a really fun page. Now this is where I don't know. I use these stamps that I got from a Black Friday sale from Evalicious, and they're cute, don't get me wrong. But after I stamped them down, I didn't really like how that looked. So I do wind up covering up some of that with more of the washi tape. I'm going to come back in and just add some torn, uneven strips in the green and the blue. And you can still kind of see some of the stamped arrows. It wasn't that I didn't like it. I don't know. Once it was there, when I looked at it, it didn't turn out like I think it should have. Now these are some stamps from my stash. These are from Technique Tuesday, and they're just really cute script. And I'm just going to darken up the part that says "This is," and use that above Incredible. And of course, I should have stamped it first, so I have to take my black pen and kind of fill in the parts that did not go on all the way, but that's okay. But yeah, what I was saying is I wanted to show you that you don't really need a lot of things to make a great page. You know, I've used white cardstock as the paper, and that is it. And then just minimal things. I made the washi tape stretch. I used it in 3 different places, a couple sequins. This is a little Tim Holtz sticker, and then I'm going to come back in with more of the washi tape. And I believe that sticker says ordinary people can do extraordinary things, something like that. And it just reminded me of David Banner when he was just an ordinary guy, always walking from city to city with his little knapsack, and then he would turn into the Incredible Hulk and help people. So he went from ordinary to extraordinary. And I just thought that was a cute little sticker because it matched and went with everything. I added my journaling and a little bit of stitching, and that's the final page. I love how this turned out. I really am excited that I did a lot here with just a little bit of things. So pull out your white cardstock and your washi tape, a little bit of mixed media stuff, and you can come up with something really cool. I think this turned out great, and I'm excited about it. So hopefully I'll have more time in the near future to do more stash videos. I really had a good time doing this. It felt good to just kind of make something that I just felt like doing out of the blue. So let me know if you have any questions. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.